Hey everybody, today I want to talk about breeding orange laser Corydoras or Corydoras in general. As you can see here, I've got eggs on the glass. They lay eggs on the glass, that's what they do. I mean, they could lay it on other stuff too, but in here they've laid on the glass, and that's typical. And these are orange laser Corydoras. I've got them set up on an undergravel filter. And what I want to kind of talk about is one, collecting eggs and all of that and raising them, but also some encouragement. These guys came into me from Bob Steenfot. He wasn't having any luck spawning them lately, and so he brought them over, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago, and they've just been sitting in here, doing nothing, getting fed, with no decor. And then you've got a group over here that I brought in from a wholesaler probably 2 days earlier. Now they're smaller and younger, and they haven't bred at all, and they got all the cover in the world. And so most people wouldn't have 2 tanks of kind of some expensive Corydoras. Instead, they would have one group, and they'd be going, oh, everything I try is not working. And you could try all of the stuff, and it's not working, because they're not old enough. And yet, the exact same water parameters, they get the exact same water changes. We didn't have a storm. I didn't do an extra big water change. I didn't do any of that. And I've bred these guys in the past where they were in a setup like this, and they would breed and raise their own fry and do all of that. But today we're going to talk about artificially raising the Corydoras eggs and kind of collecting them. You can see a plant got stuck in here, and this is a great example. The eggs are sticky and they will collect debris, and they're highly likely to fungus, and people will say collect the eggs, and then they don't follow up and tell you, like, well, what do you do after that? I don't know. And so what we're going to do, we're going to collect the eggs and we're going to put them in this contraption. This is designed by Lowell's Fish Room. Look it up on YouTube. And basically it's meant that it can go in the water and let water pass through here, and you pump it in with a pump. But at first, we don't want that. We want to sterilize the eggs. And so we're going to use some methylene blue to do that. The methylene blue is basically an antifungal treatment. And it'll keep these eggs from fungusing because they collect debris. And that's not what we want at all. We want nice, clean eggs. So we've been working and testing some of these 3D printed egg collection scrapers. So I'm going to remove this plant. I'm going to scrape these eggs. But I gotta get some water in here first, and so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna prep my methylene blue. Not that I have to before, but mostly because I can't do it one-handed and show you guys, so we'll do that real quick. All right, so I've set some things up. Normally, I use this is Aquarium Co-op catch cup specimen container, and it allows me to see from all angles. You know, you can look underneath, you can pick it up, you can move it, you can hang it on your tank, how the eggs are doing. Because if they start fungusing, I will remove the fungusing eggs. Now, you can go straight to that. It's just a little bit harder to see clear eggs in the container. So I usually, you know, like Dean and I, a lot of people would hatch them in something like this. You can use Tupperware, you know, almost anything as long as you can easily work with it. And then I would transfer to something like there. So I'm gonna do that today. It'll also be good for video. So there's another aspect to that. I wanted to show you that these guys are at 71.6 degrees. So not super hot, not super cold, just kind of a factor there of like, oh, did I have to do a water change to get them cold? Like, no, I literally just run them that cold. The guys next door, they're running at 73. Now, this is what will probably blow your mind. This is just a sidebar tidbit. The difference between these two aquariums, the lid was open this much, so almost a 2-degree difference just by the lid. Kind of crazy, right? But yeah, we put it back in here, drops it right back down. So yeah, I've spawned them at much warmer, much cooler. Well, not much cooler, but you know, people focus on water parameters, and I don't think they're as important as feeding good and giving the right parameters. So we're gonna slowly tug this plant away and hopefully not take too many eggs with it. There we go. Perfect, get that out of the way. And then you can use a credit card or something like that, but we're trying to invent, I guess. Bob was the start of this, like he was doing it, and he's like, I need a credit card that holds the eggs because they slide off, and that's what happens. So we kind of made one. Jason actually designed this. We're a few versions in. We're still working on it to get it better, but if you bug him on the forum, if we don't have it up by then, he'll probably give you a file that you could print if you have a 3D printer. So we're just gonna come in here. This plant really wants to stick to that. So we just kind of scrape upwards. Don't drop that egg. Come on. You can actually roll them with your finger too. They're real sticky. Stay in there. Stay in there. Yep. So I've let all the water out. You can see that mass of eggs right there. And then you just transfer them over to here and you kind of shake them out. You know, obviously you're not doing it too violently. But there we go. And we'll check just a third time here. Got them all. So we have all the eggs. I don't know if you saw it when it came off, but there was like a little hair. It already collected some schmutz. And that tends to be the downfall of the eggs, is they just collect stuff, they start fungusing. And so the next step is you get a couple of drops of methylene blue in there. And this stuff will stain the dickens out of you. Like you get this on you, they literally use it to stain blue jeans. So just know that, you know, you're messing around with some stuff that really likes to stain, but it's, so put like 3 drops in there. And you're going for like a consistency of blue, just so like it's all kind of the blue water, not so much like what's the specific dose, because everyone's little container, whether it's a Tupperware or something like that, will be different. You also don't want to just do like, oh, I just did half a bottle, because that'll kill it, right? You just want a little bit, a couple of drops to keep the water blue. If you've ever shipped fish or gotten fish shipped to you, you might say, hey, I've had blue water before. Yeah, it's a very cheap, easy way to kind of prevent some fungus. Now, a bottle like this is usually like less than 15 bucks, no matter where you buy it, and is probably a lifetime supply. Like, I think Dean used a bottle this size for 20 years, and then he was like, hey, I need more. And he breeds all the time. So it took that long to use up one bottle, 20 years. So as you see, a couple of drops will do a whole batch of eggs, whether you're doing Corydoras eggs, or maybe you're doing rainbow eggs, or maybe you're doing angelfish eggs, all of that kind of stuff. And then the last step is we're gonna put a very, very, very slow air stone in it, basically. Just like the tiniest little bit, just a little bit of circulation is all we're gonna do. You actually don't even have to do that. I just like doing it. So we'll follow up with that. All right. And so here you can see I've used our air stone that's weighted, so it just sits down in there. One of the big reasons we like the weight. And the air, really slow. That's by design. You don't want the eggs being whipped around or having to move or anything like that. We just want to make sure it stays well oxygenated for when they hatch, and just make sure there's no scum. And that's really what you're trying to do, is make sure there's not a layer of scum that builds up on the top and would like cut off oxygen supply or something like that. But once they hatch out, we're gonna move them to a container like this. You can do it in this, but you gotta do a lot of water changes and stuff. And this, we'll teach you this method. And yeah, we'll just go from there. All right, so it's been about 5 days now, and we've had some of the Corydoras hatch. You can see the eggs looked like they were gonna fungus, and I wasn't sure we were gonna get a viable batch here. But you can see, you know, some of the fry in the nooks and crannies. If I move this a little bit, maybe we'll get some movement out of them so you can see. But I'll keep chiming in, just kind of, I'm just putting so little air through here. I wanted you to see them kind of scatter, but I'm not trying to make them too stressed either. But if I pick this up, maybe, yeah, you can kind of see that one moving. Yeah. So you can kind of see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at least. And then we'll take a look over top. It looks like probably all we're gonna get. Maybe there's, you know, a couple more. It's hard to say on that corner. We're getting tons of glare here, but hard to say if they're all made it out of the hatch. But the next step that I'm going to do shortly here is move them to a box like this. All right, so I wanted to show you this kind of setup, and I wouldn't normally set it up in this manner, except for I really want to show you guys how this thing works. So first you can download the plans, or you can buy this on Etsy. Lowell's Fish Lab makes them. You can 3D print them if you become a Patreon, that kind of stuff. But this is air, goes through the sponge filter, pumps water up into here. Now this is actually a cap, and I took it off to show you so that it wouldn't be bubbly in a problem like this. You put the cap on it, which I will do right now. Get that placed in there. Oh, come on, one hand, there we go. So now you just have little bits of water coming through so that it won't be too turbulent for these fry. Now, I'm gonna take the fry and the eggs, because they could still hatch, maybe one or two, and we'll kind of pour them in real slowly here so that we don't overwhelm the system. The water flows out through the sponge over on the side, so we'll get it down fairly low and then we'll dump the rest, kind of let it equalize. And I realize that the eggs now won't be antifungal with the methylene blue, but that's okay. And we're gonna have a little bit of methylene blue in this whole system, and that's okay too. No other fish in here, just underground filter. And we'll let it kind of drain back here for a sec. Now this works for me because I have overflows and the water just drains out, so I'm not worried. And then we continue to pour. You can see all my fry are concentrated. See them running around. And the goal is going to be to get all those kind of in this one fell swoop here. Always double, triple check. Yep, there's still one in there, so grab a little water. Come on, little dudes. Grab a little water. Swirl it around, make sure. I believe we have them all. All right, we have all of them. So now we can kind of look in here, and the egg mass is broken up a little bit. If I pinch the water, this is going to be easier. So now all of a sudden you see this is a white container, and you'd be like, man, that's going to show all the stuff. And it does. It shows any little poop that's in there, but also you can see the fry a lot easier. So you're going to be able to see, are you feeding way too much? Are they eating? And just because they hatched out today, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but they kind of look like tadpoles. So they still have their yolk sac. We're not even going to start trying to feed them because they hatched out today until that yolk sac starts to disappear. So even though the filtration could handle it and everything, there's no point. You can see that some of the eggs kind of got stained blue. Those ones were not viable. And yeah, so that's this stage. And then you can see more over here. So not a huge clutch. These guys are new to me. They were settling in. I'm gonna let the filtration kind of go back in here. And you can see that while there's ripples on the top and air, the fish aren't being pushed around. So you can see some debris moving a little bit, but this is the right thing. And you could turn it down a little bit, you could turn it up a little bit, but this seems to be good. And what I was gonna go with this was, so this now been roughly, you know, call it a week process, roughly, 1 week. You know, it was 5 days, but we had to find them and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then they've laid more today, not yesterday, but today. And so I fed them. You can still see some bloodworm kind of carcasses kind of floating around in there, and the fish are in the back. But because I fed them heavy, they laid a few more eggs. And so they didn't lay a super huge batch or anything, but I'll go ahead and scrape these, and I'll make a new batch of water with some methylene blue, and why not hatch some more, is basically, and I can run multiple of these. So really just wanted to, you know, keep showing you guys raising them up and doing this in 10 gallons. And when you have a whole rack of 10 gallons, this is, you can do anything you want when it comes to breeding fish almost with just 10-gallon tanks, even 5-gallon tanks. Technically, you know, this can be done in a 2-gallon tank. It's harder to manage water a little bit and overfeed like I have to get them to spawn, but you do get results. So, you know, we'll keep chiming in. We'll make sure, hopefully I raise these up and don't lose them, but we're gonna try it purely on the small the magic small fish feed, which I've never done before. I've never raised Corydoras on that. I've always done either just schmutz in the tank for them to eat while feeding the parents and they colony raise, or live baby brine shrimp. So this will be new for me as well. All right, Corydora update. It's been like 3 more days. I've had a few more eggs. One did hatch, so it looks like most of them fungused up, but maybe they'll still hatch. And I moved the one, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera, but that top left guy there, he's the newest hatcher, where the rest of these guys have been just, you know, growing off their egg sac, and then in theory, what you see down below is debris and poop, but also the magic small fish feed. So, you know, as we go through this experiment, we're learning together. It looks like they're filling up on it, but it's such a hard, without pulling them out and looking at them with a flashlight, you know, that's going to cause a lot of stress. We're just going to have to take our word for it here and just see how it goes. So, chiming in just a few days later. No more eggs yet today or anything, and just doing what we're doing. Just chiming in today, just pulled another batch of eggs, you know, another 10 or so from the same group, and just fed these guys. And kind of want to chime in on, there's multiple batches in here now, so I do believe that they're fully raising on the magic small fish feed, and it's hard to tell, but like some of them are clearly smaller, and those are the new hatched out that you can see. Like that one and that one, clearly much smaller than these guys that hatched out like the week before. And so it seemingly is working without hatching out any live brine. And yeah, there's another little guy right there. So far working. All right, I wanted to tie up the Corydora video. It has now been 6.5 weeks. You can see these guys now released into the aquarium. They've only been eating the magic small fish feed, except they did get their first wafer yesterday, and they're not loving it. But they are growing up, and you can still see there's some different sizes because we had multiple batches, and they don't always all grow the same size. I am growing other fry in here while they're growing up, and I've got tiger shrimp going on. But, you know, at 6 weeks, I think at the 3-month mark, so another 6 weeks, they will be full sellable size. And yeah, I just want to start introducing them to some other foods now in case someone buys them from my store or the club and they don't feed the magic fish feed. I don't want them to only ever be able to feed that, but you can see, you know, kind of back there, they're feeding on it. And so, yeah, so that concludes how I do it, how I raise them. Yes, there's algae on the glass, but in terms of raising a fish, it's not a, you know, not a looks contest on how good the tank looks. It's how beneficial it is to their environment and raising up. And I think we've done a good job of that. So now you should have the tools to raise some fry yourself without too much problems.